My name is Douglas Christian, and I live in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia, directly across the street from historic Christ Church, where George Washington worshipped and where FDR took Winston Churchill to visit just a month after Pearl Harbor. Although I was probably never a good enough student to attend Harvard College, I went to Tufts. I was born in a military hospital in Germany and grew up in Cambridge before we moved to Wellesley and Waban, and later I bought a house in Lexington. This is me playing with my dad at Westgate, MIT's married student housing in the early mid-1960s. And while my dad was seeking his doctorate from MIT, my mother earned her PhD from Harvard. Theatrum Mundi, The History of an Idea, was her dissertation, and I mention that only because when I see David Malin perform, and yes, I use the word perform rather than teach, I am awestruck by his talent, passion, creativity, attention to detail that he attends to, the pacing, the rhythm, and the sheer quality of information he provides. He has earned my respect, and I confess, loathing, I hate him for being so damn talented at what he does. Malin's performance reminds me of the level of passion and insight and erudition and theater that my dad would give as a young professor at MIT. When he finished an hour, the chalkboard was scribbled like a piece of modern art from left to right. I've had a few other rare teachers like that. They were few and far between, but they were rare gems, like blue diamonds. Of one teacher, who wasn't really a teacher, but an inspiration nonetheless, my dad would bring me to see him, Doc Edgerton's glittering light shows for kids at MIT. Edgerton, as you may know, invented the strobe light and made that seminal photo of a milk drop's corona crown. I was such a disorganized kid. I had a tutor at Park School in Brookline who would pick up my 3-ring binder and turn it upside down and command, "Now clean this up." I'm grateful for Mr. Shaw's level of care. He invested himself in me, and his lessons are etched into my brain. From Mr. Shaw's English class almost 50 years ago, I can still recount some of the opening passages of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. "Wander prile with the shore sutter, the drucht of March hath passed to the ruter, and bath every vein in sweet liquor." Anyhow. And then I had Ed Shore at Putney School. His was a resplendent mind, both scientific and artistic. I wrote of him for a memorial at Putney that Ed's mischievous grin and sarcastic glee at sophistic reasoning defined an edge in his thinking, the limits of which were based on moral truths rather than intellectual falsehoods. And Stephen Jay Gould once told me that the purpose of writing is to inform and to entertain. When I see David Malin dance around stage at Sanders, I'm brought back to many performances I've attended on that same stage. Joel Cohen's Boston Camerata is always on my playlist this time of year. Riu Riu Chiu is the cry of the nightingale who scares off the wolf with his melody. Riu Riu Chiu. But performing in Sanders is fraught with danger. It's an echoey space. Ben Zander would admonish audience members to be quiet and not to cough loudly during performances of the Boston Baroque, and showed people before performances how to lift up their arm and gently hack into their elbow. It's also a place of stark memory. Sanders is also called Memorial Hall and is dedicated to all the Harvard men who died during the Civil War. In an earlier life in Boston, I had the privilege of documenting some of the memories of one of those heroes, Robert Gould Shaw. The state of Massachusetts hired me to document and photograph all 300 of their historic flags, including those from the 54th and 53rd Regiments. Those were the black regiments, most of the soldiers of whom were paid less than half of what their white counterparts were granted. When we laid open the 54th Regiment's colors, our little band of archivists in the sub-basement of the State House just fell silent, thinking of all the men who died to carry that flag, only to be picked up by another man for a few seconds before he too was taken down by a sniper. Charleston's historic beauty belies the tragic tale of those brave soldiers from Colonel Shaw's regiment who gave their lives at Fort Wagner. If you ever get a chance to go to the Massachusetts State House, the rotunda has a permanent display of 12 4x5-foot each transparencies of my photographs of those flags. These days, I cover the Capitol and the White House as a multimedia journalist. These are some of the photos I took at the Senate just a few weeks ago. And this is me at the White House briefing room. And here I converted this photograph I took and expanded it into a pseudo three-dimensional object to provide a more dynamic video illustration. So too, I have used this technique on other pieces of art. This is one from the stolen Rembrandt from the Gardner Museum, Storm in the Sea of Galilee. And after my parents died, so many people I have known have passed, and this is what happens when you're in your 60s. I brought to life the Memento Mori mosaic from Pompeii. The animation demanded that I code in JavaScript. Fortunately, I had studied, read, and reread this book on After Effects expressions, so I was able to make my project work by hook or by crook, however clunky my coding might seem. That said, I realized that though I can code in an ad hoc basis, my methods are inefficient because still I'm flying without navigation. I dance around my computer illiteracy by falling back on the UIs from Excel or After Effects or ChatGPT or Notion or what have you to get me through a project. Recently, ChatGPT helped me to code a small script in Python to clean up some XML I had generated in Notion. My Rube Goldberg project actually works pretty well, but truthfully, I didn't know what I was doing. And I realized that as I demand more precision for my work, I need to stop ruminating and learn for real how to code. Or, as it was said in Dr. Strangelove, I need to stop worrying and love the bomb. I think I'll stick to coding, and that's why I'm here.